many trucks?
688.
688 trucks. So we don't have 688 trucks, I don't think, in South Carolina to get played that long. We do appreciate Dr. Jenaway being here. Honestly, the best thing I can say about it, please, if you have an opportunity to talk to him, he's a tremendous wealth of information. Very, very good.
That's it? Darrell told me that he had a 5-minute introduction for me and that I could get some sleep time in, some nap time, some think time before I had to come up here. So now I'm sort of at a loss because I don't know what to say. So maybe I better get a drink of water. It was sealed and it is water. Darrell once was given a bottle of water at a conference where he had to speak. The water wasn't water. He failed to check the top to see if the cap was sealed or not. The cap was not sealed. Darrell drank a half a bottle of moonshine before he realized that he was standing in front of a group getting ready to talk and that somebody had played a prank on him. So now I am always cautious, making sure that I don't fall victim to what Darrell did. How many of you ate one of those big brownies out there? I did? Okay, because I want to watch you because I'm figuring about a third of the way through my presentation, your head's going to be on a table. Or you'll start bouncing, one or the other. And then if you fall down, I'm going to go get you another one so that you keep up. So just be conscious that I'm going to be watching all of you. I want to talk to you today about things that I see around the country. And as Darrell mentioned, I'm vice president of VFIS. VFIS insures about 16,000 fire departments across the country. I get to every state during the course of a year, close to every state, as I'm talking to different fire departments, working with them, trying to find out what they need to do better, what they have been doing and need to modify, and so on. And it's interesting. Oh, and by the way, we insure big to small. We insure metro departments all the way down to the smallest fire station that runs 5 calls a year in a western state. So we see a little bit of everything. One of the things that has become apparent in the last couple of years is the continued number of closures of departments. Some through planning and some not through planning. So what I'm going to try and do is tell you a little bit about the experiences that we see around the country where fire stations encounter challenges or problems or potential closures or potential mergers or consolidations because of things that are going on within the organizations themselves. So we're going to work through these, 1 through 10. And our objective is just to understand that many departments are encountering different types of challenges. This keeps them from performing to the best of their ability. And some have closed, some have merged, some have gone away in other formats. But we're going to talk about 10 ways that this happens and methods to keep from allowing it to happen to your organization. So here's number 1. Having no relationship with your elected officials. And let's go from top to bottom. Having no relationship between the fire and EMS community with the governor's office. Having no relationship of the fire and EMS community to the state legislature or the state senate. Having no relationship to local government, whether it's city council, county government, or whatever form of municipality you might be within, or even elected officials of fire districts or appointed officials of fire district. Those are all elected officials with whom a relationship is necessary. I don't know if you looked back here and noticed this on my profile. I guess it's not on that one, but it's definitely on this one. Township supervisor. Somebody asked me before, what's a township supervisor? Is that like a town manager or is that like a mayor? In my community, it's like a mayor. 5 township supervisors are elected at large by the general public. We have a population of 35,000 people in my town. And every 6 years, we have an election and you get elected for 6-year terms. Okay? I'm in my first 6-year term, toward the end of it, having moved from being the guy on the left with the uniform to being the guy on the right who's handing out the proclamations and the declarations, setting the budget for the fire department, establishing the annual goals for the fire department, making sure that things that need to be purchased for the fire department are purchased for the fire department. So I moved into that role. And I can tell you that one of the most effective tools that you can have is having someone who understands the system leading you from an elected official standpoint. Why? Because your interests are always at the table. So you don't have to have every member of the State House or every member of Town Council who is a firefighter or a former firefighter or former fire chief, but you need somebody to tout your case. Darrell didn't mention that one of the things that I also do is that I'm the president of the Congressional Fire Services Institute's Board of Directors. Any of you in here ever hear of Congressional Fire Service Institute? You ever been to Washington, D.C., maybe for the dinner? Okay, well, yeah, we have a nice little soiree up there every year. Hopefully some of you get to come up. You get to meet with your local senators and local congressmen from South Carolina. And then you come and spend a day with us at seminars and for the annual dinner. A little over 25 years ago, 1988, Congressman then Curt Weldon said to me, he said, Bill, when I get elected to Congress, he said, the first thing I'm going to do is start this Fire and EMS caucus. And he said, we're going to make this thing work because we're going to bring attention to Capitol Hill and make sure that people up there understand what the fire service is all about. And I looked at him, and I had known Curt for many, many years. He's a personal friend of mine. We worked together in the past. I said, Curt, you're crazy. I said, why would those 535 people want to listen to you talk about firefighting? He said, you just come with me and watch. Well, the next thing you know, it's the largest caucus in the history of the United States. The largest caucus in the history of the United States. Why? Because everybody, every member of Congress represents municipalities that have firefighters in it. Every elected official at the state level represents communities and constituents who have a fire department in their community. We are the one thing that every elected official has in their town and has to deal with. So we have a vested interest in ensuring the public safety of our community, and in doing so, they have an obligation to make sure that we are well served by them in protecting us, protecting them. Use that line on them every time. They'll have a very hard time refuting it, and you'll get a win somewhere along the line out of that. The bottom line out of this is that here we are 25, 26 years later at CFSI, and we have models in other states where it was needed to do the same kind of thing. But I can also tell you, having in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, we just had a change of governors. The prior years, prior to the last 4 years, we had excellent relationships between the fire service and the governor. And when the governor's office needed something, they knew where to go. When the fire service needed to get to the governor's office, we knew how to make that happen. But over the last 4 years, that wasn't so. And as a result, we were part of the group that sought to make sure that incoming personnel needed to have representation and contacts with local officials. And they have to have contacts with senior officials. So we're hoping that with the new governor and a new state fire commissioner, that we now have the ear of the governor, which we didn't believe we had for 4 years. Those kinds of things lead to good outcomes. Lead to good outcomes. So have that relationship, develop that relationship, mature that relationship, and make good things happen. If you have no relationship, you can expect challenges. One of the big things that I see across the country is that organizations have no strategic plans, they have no mission statements, they don't talk about values, they don't talk about the things that organizationally will move the department forward. So I would ask you, and you don't have to raise your hands, but just think about it. Do you have a vision statement and a mission statement? And if you do, great. And I hope you've implemented it, and I hope everyone in your organization understands what that means. Because to have a vision statement and a mission statement that is fully implemented, meaning every member of the organization fully understands where the organization is moving toward, allows you to be able to get your activities as leadership implemented and moved forward. It's when people don't understand the mission, don't understand the vision, don't understand the goals and objectives, that they will want to create their own. This isn't something unique to the fire service. It happens in business and industry every day. If you allow a subgroup of individuals to develop their own goals and objectives that are contradictory to the organization's main driving fields, then you will have conflict. And when you have that conflict, the organization will suffer. So, have that mission, vision, goals, and objectives, and implement them to all levels of the organization. Then you can move toward a strategic plan. Strategic plan, typically 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and I don't know how many of you have them in place or not, but if you don't, I suggest that you look at doing something like that. Start small, look maybe what you want to do over the next 5 years, and then build that out with all of the things that need to be done, all the little steps that you need to get to the big steps and the big goals. Those kinds of planning techniques are successful because, again, it allows the organization's membership and leadership to focus on what's important and not what they want to do. Corporations, if they are successful, typically have a strategic plan. They call it a business plan, and that business plan is typically 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year. Businesses don't go longer than 7 years because they can't project their revenue streams out past that. However, in fire and EMS agencies, where we may be restricted by tax increases that we're allowed to have, we may be restricted by what we're able to generate in revenue activities or fundraising activities, we have a better feel for what that might be, and we might be able to do a little better planning than some businesses do. Standard of cover is another component that most organizations that I am at don't have in place. In fact, I was at a county recently in another state that had no standard of cover, and they were literally moving agencies 20 and 25 miles to cover each other, rather than having some methodology on determining what their standard of response would be, how long it takes to get out of a station, how long it's going to take to be on scene, what resources you'll have when you get on scene, and what type of incidents you can handle, and thereby building your response system. And instead of that, they just had trucks responding here and trucks responding there. And the first thing that we sat down to do in developing a strategic plan was look at the standard of cover to try to figure out what do you really need to have in the way of a response to different types of incidents, and where are those resources coming from. And if they can't meet that demand, then what do we have to look at in different types of service delivery systems, meaning combination systems, a paid station here or there, and so on. So standard of cover, how long is it going to take me to get out of station? How long is it going to take me to get there? What are my resources when I get there? And how am I going to solve the problem once I get there? The standard of cover. Leadership has been defined by a lot of people as being one of the key problem areas. Either we have leaders who can't lead, we have leaders who don't lead, or we have leaders who lead us in the wrong direction. And when you have one of those three types of leaders, you typically have some level of failure resulting in the organization. And let's face it, regardless of which one of these 10 things may be happening in your organization, you may not fail completely, but you may fail in one aspect, or you may fail in two aspects. And when you do, it just keeps you from moving forward even further. So we're not talking about total collapse necessarily, but what we are talking about is challenges that you have to overcome to get to the next level. So what about leadership, and how does that take care of leading your organization? Well, I have 4 leaders pictured up there. I think we all know the guy over here with the beard. Well, the guy in the black suit with the beard. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was known for his wisdom. He was known for his ability to take action. He was known for a variety of steps that one takes, but he gives thought first before he takes action. So thinking through problem issues to come up with creative solutions was what Abraham Lincoln brought to the table as a leader. Great books on this and a lot of technical detail about what he did, and it's very interesting reading. I read them all in developing a course on leadership. He's a cool guy. Knew what he was doing in many, many ways. This guy over here, how many of you have, the guy with the helmet, how many watched Night at the Museum 1, 2, or 3? Anybody watch that movie? Okay, you know who this guy is? Attila the Hun. Okay, one of the most ruthless leaders in the history of the world. Thought nothing of ravaging villages. Thought nothing of pillaging the villages. People did what he told them to do, because if you didn't do what he did, what he told you to do, what would happen? He'd kill you. Okay, he's a cool leader. He led by intimidation. Not a good technique in the 21st century. Might have been good back in those days, ain't good anymore. So let's move on to another form of leadership. The open camp, Peter Persh Pumper, 1941, Peter Persh, pride of the fleet in the fire department that I grew up in suburban Pittsburgh. That's my dad with the truck. My dad was the assistant chief at the time that picture was taken. And whenever he came into the fire service, he came out of a military background. All of the fire officers of the department at the time were military background. And when I joined the fire department, I thought I was in the military. I was told, this is how we will do it. This is what is expected of you. This is how we're going to achieve our goals. This is what's going to be done. And it was military down the line. And every one of those officers was at least a sergeant in the military. That's a cool way to grow up. I learned a lot about discipline. I learned a lot about leadership in that structure and format. And then there's me, the last picture there. I am a totally different kind of leader. I am the kind of leader who works to do that strategic plan, establish goals, pick people to implement those goals, empower them and give them the resources to achieve that goal, and then monitor them and let them work through challenges and problems to learn people and to learn process in order to be successful. 4 different kinds of leadership styles. All 4 successful in some way, shape, or form. History tells us ultimately whether we were really successful or not, and what we did and how we did it. But what you really have to do in leadership is pick and choose different leadership styles, techniques, tools, and apply them to your organization. Because the one thing that is true about all organizations is that we have people. And people come from different backgrounds, people come with different skills, people come with different knowledge sets, people come with different interest levels, people come with different stuff that you have to manage. And the more different stuff and baggage that they bring with them, the more challenging your job as a leader. So, remember that leadership is about finding a way to get a specific group of people to follow you to accomplish a mission. I always like to talk about understanding your clientele. Your clientele are people who live in your town, people who visit your town, people who work in your town, the elected leaders of your town, the service groups in your town, the schools in your town, whatever's in your town. They might be coming through, They might be staying for a while. They might be there permanently. You may like them. You may not like them. You may want them to stay. You may want them to go. The fact is, they're your clients. And what do they want? What do they want? What do they care about from the fire department? Service. And 99% of the time, what is service? Picking up the phone, dialing 911, and expecting a fire truck or an ambulance or a police car to show up. And when you show up, you better know what you're doing. Totally different from 1940. Totally different from 1970. So people who want to live in years gone by in their service methodologies are doing nothing but creating more significant challenges for you by not allowing you to service your new clientele base. Get a little sip here of Daryl's moonshine. How many of you actually go out and talk to business community, talk to the general public, talk to the elected officials and other personnel in your communities on a periodic basis? A couple of you? I think that it's important that you consider doing that. And I'll give you a little technique that I've used a couple of times. I thought it was important when we did our strategic planning process that we bring the business community in. Now, there's a lot of businesses in my community. But I selectively went out and looked for a couple big ones, a couple small ones, and a couple that were locally owned. Invited them to breakfast. We had orange juice, coffee, Danish, a couple other bagels, a couple other things like that. Had a nice little sit down for about 30 minutes. And then I said, okay, folks, what do you expect out of the fire department? And the discussion lasted about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. But what we got at was a significant difference in expectations between large business community organizations, the people who lived there and operated a business, and those who ran a business in town. Maybe it was a chain store or something to that effect, or a grocery store. But they all had a little bit different vision of what the fire department should be to them. At the end of the day, though, the one common thing was when we dial 911, we want help. And we don't care where it comes from. We want that closest truck that can help us with people on it that know what they're doing. And that was a little eye-opening to me at the time, and I'm going back a few years. It was eye-opening to me at the time because there was a belief that you ran calls in your designated district even if there was a station very, very close to your district that wasn't in your municipality. And that resulted in a shared response, which, if you talk to the insurance services office now, they give you credit for. If you have a station outside your community that is closer to the risk than your facilities are, and you have them on automatic dispatch, that's an improvement issue under ISO. So take a look at that moving forward and see if that might help you, if you're not already doing it. But in all areas of our community now, in addition to the designated municipal station that would respond to that, the nearest outside station responds if applicable. I am surprised how many places across the country still do not do that technique. It is absolutely amazing at the number that don't do that. How do you find that out? You talk to your people. You talk to your people who, again, are not just those individuals who are the general populace, but you talk to the elected leadership. Because the elected leadership may have a different vision than the general public. School district people may have a totally different perspective on what the fire service demands and needs are than the general public. So getting them all together on a regular basis makes a lot of sense. When I say all together, you don't necessarily have to bring them all in the same room, but getting together with them is the key to this. SOG's policies, rules to live by. Okay? We, in my department, we started putting policies and procedures together in 1989. It's what we did. It's amazing to me to go into a department today and, number one, find that they have very few, if any, in some cases, SOGs. We've done it this way for years. This is the way it works. We don't need it written down. So if you don't have it written down, how do you train new people? Well, we get the older people teach the newer people. Well, that's great. What happens if the older people don't like the way the right way is and they teach somebody the wrong way? How do you correct that? Policies, procedures, rules to live by aren't just paper documents. They establish the foundation of your training programs. They establish the foundation of your performance expectations. They establish the basis of your disciplinary system. Because if someone is given the SOG, they read it, they are then trained in it, they are observed and supervised in performing it, and they aren't doing it right and then they are disciplined by it, is the proper utilization of a standard operating guideline. It is not to have a guideline in a piece of paper in a book so that you have it there if somebody asks. The idea is to develop them so that they function within your operating system and they establish the baseline of operations. I can also tell you, from having had to go to court a couple times on operational issues that supposedly went wrong, when you have these and you demonstrate that process, it gets you through that legal process a whole lot easier than if you don't have them or you don't use them and don't have them implemented correctly. So they serve a lot more than just being a piece of paper that somebody gives you that you put in a book and put on a shelf. They're tools of the trade for use day in, day out. And I can't stress the use of them in training personnel. Not just today, but pick a couple and retrain every month with them. Just send it out, get it to the personnel and say, look, here's a reminder. Here's how we do whatever. Pick the SOG and implement it. None of us have ever done this, right? We've never overspent. It is important to understand you have a budget, and whatever that budget is, you should not be spending more than that budget. Because if you do, you may not have the money to pay the bills. And if you do, you may be coming under significant scrutiny. Depending upon the type of organizational design that you're in, you may even become ridiculed by elected officials, or you may become tossed out of office by your membership because you don't know how to manage your budget. So the bottom line is, don't spend more than you have. When you set that budget, make it a promise to yourself that we're not going to overspend. Well, the first thing, every time I do this, there's some guy in the back of the class, and he said, well, wait a minute, what happens if something breaks down and it's going to cost me $25,000 extra to fix that, and I can't predict that, and therefore, yeah, I'm going to overspend, ha, ha, ha. Okay, in your budgetary process, do you have some method that allows you to take a certain portion of those dollars and put them into reserve accounts that allows you a contingency fund that's going to give you that little flexibility that if there is some spending challenge that you have, you can go to that reserve and you can take it out of there and spend it. I'll give you a couple of financial hints. Number one, any accountants in here? No accountants? No? You look like an accountant. An accountant will tell you that you should have a reserve of somewhere between 3 and 6 months of normal spending. Why? Because if your cash flow, for whatever reason, hits a snag, or you have some kind of excessive spending scenario that develops, a 3 to 6 month buffer of cash available will always be there to keep you from running into financial cash flow problems. So depending on the accounting firm, the level of the cash flow, I've had them tell me 3 months to 6 months. I do know that when my fire department went through the accreditation process through the Commission on Fire Accreditation International, we met with our accounting professionals that do all of the books for our fire department, and they recommended 3 months for our size budget. And they said if you keep 3 months in reserve in a cash type account that you can access if you need it, you'll probably never have the worries of not being able to pay your bills or running into financial problems. I then talked to other accounting groups as I've done conferences around the country, and I've heard them say as much as 6 months, but the 6 months were for smaller agencies that may not have the ability to quickly go out and recapture some funding stream. So remember, 3 to 6 months are the right kind of things to have for that. Overspending. Don't spend more than you have available to spend. Okay, point number 7 on how to fail. Don't report your activities. You go to people and you want money, whether it's elected officials, county councils, fire district commissioners, the general public, whatever it is, you go out and you say, I want some money because I need to operate the fire department. And they said, well, what do you do, fire department? And this is a report that a fellow that I've become friends with, Chief Johnny Blythe from the Hemby Bridge, North Carolina Fire Department. He created this very simple one-page annual report that I just think is phenomenal. In one page, he tells you who the leadership of the organization is, what services. There we go. These are the leaders of the organization right here. This is what services they provide. Here is the accomplishments for the past year. Here's the staffing models that they use, their chain of command, the types of incidents that they actually respond to and the percentages. Up here is their mission statement. Here is the apparatus that they use, and here are the statistics of the area that they protect. Hemby Bridge is a pretty good-sized suburb of Charlotte. I'm sure some of you know where Hemby Bridge is. But Chief Blythe, in allowing me to show this in different presentations, he said, I get a lot of value out of this because everybody that asks me about the fire department, this is what I refer them to. He said, because there's no single better way that I can, in one little snapshot, tell them about my fire department. So when somebody asks me, what's the best way that I can get mass communication out to the general public in my community, I refer them to Hemby Bridge and Chief Blythe's little tool that he uses as a one-pager. Now, if you want to use this as a recruitment tool, you can do it, because anybody who wants to know about the fire department and knows that they're going to run, 700, 800, 900 calls a year if they join this fire department, they're going to be busy. They're going to know that they can learn rescue techniques, first aid or medical services, firefighting, or they can go out and help the public. You don't have to be a firefighter. You can do pub ed. You can do other community service work. They know that the fire department has goals, so they can help work toward those goals if they want to do that. They know what kind of fire engines they have, and they have nice fire engines. And they know what the mission is, so if they can believe in the mission and they can find work that they can do, it serves as a good recruiting tool. It helps him sell what he needs for a budget, because he's able to tell you, I can do this many calls, I have this many people. If I can't make this many calls with these people, I'm going to need more people, volunteer or career. Here's how I'm going to do it. I mean, Johnny's really, really savvy, and he's really effective in his communication techniques. This is the tool that he uses. Yesterday, I spoke to about 20 of you about financial processes. And one of the things that we see at VFIS on a regular basis are fire departments where there is theft in the organization. The worst I've seen is a little over $2 million. The average, probably just under 6 figures. But they range from 25 grand to 500,000 and up to a little over 2 million. So what I want to do here is give you a couple of tools and techniques that you can take back just so that you control the financial processes of the organization and don't allow this to get out of control. Have your financial policies in writing. Back to those SOGs. You can have administrative SOGs and you can have operational SOGs. The goal of the SOGs is to establish the parameters within which people are to work, so they ultimately become not only the SOGs, but they become part of the job description that people have to do in order to fulfill their job obligations, volunteer or paid. So have those policies in writing so people know what's expected of them. The one thing that's always a challenge when you go and talk to people and say, well, why did you do this the way you did it? And it's either, well, I followed the rules, or, you know, nobody ever taught me, I just did what I thought was the right thing to do. So have those policies in writing and make sure people understand them. When you're dealing with cash, have 2 members present anytime you're changing cash or handling cash. Have a central location for collecting cash, and have 2 members present when preparing bank deposits involving cash. So anytime there's cash, whether it's for a barbecue, do you run bingos down here? No? Okay, what other kind of fundraisers do you have here? Golf tournament. Okay, that's a go. Always cash at a golf tournament. Always have 2 people handle cash. That way, if there is a theft, and it's going to be collaborative theft, and there's 2 people going to jail instead of 1. And the interesting thing, and what I shared yesterday, is we have the case studies now. When people get caught, they go into jail. We've got a number of cases now where people have stolen upwards of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. They can't make restitution. They go to jail. Number 3, have a credit card accountability process in place. I gave an example yesterday of where an officer in a fire department stole over $300,000 using credit cards. And he bought everything from guns to a gun case to big screen TVs, and you name it, he bought it. Cameras, computers, he's got it. Well, he's also got some jail time. Checks. Require 2 signatures on all checks for dispersing any departmental money. Don't pre-sign the checks, no signature stamps, and no computer-generated signatures or copy-paste. Okay? You should have 2 signatures on all expenses. The exception to this can be payroll, where they're done by a payroll firm, and there's a different methodology to this. But when you're paying regular bills of an organization, there should be a process in place where there's no pre-signing, no signature stamps, and you require 2 signatures. Next item, assign a team or committee investment responsibility, not one person. So if you have money to invest, make sure that a team is investing it, and I recommend that you have some kind of an investment policy as well. Sitting down with an investment counselor to say, look, if we've got $1 million that we're investing because we're not going to use that money for a period of time, let's have some approach on how much is going to be high risk, how much low risk, how much medium risk, how much is going to be in bonds, how much is going to be in stocks, how much is going to be in mutual funds, and work with them to establish that so that you know what the risk tolerance is for the investment. Secondly, when you do this, make sure that all investments are in the fire department's name. I came across a client not long ago where they had over $1 million invested, and the money was all in Joe Smith's name. So I raised my hand. I said, can I be Joe Smith's beneficiary? Because when Joe Smith dies, who gets that money? The estate, not the fire department. And you're going to have to go back and fight and prove that it's your money. And I don't want to have to deal with that. Okay, the next item, number 6, review bank statements on a monthly basis. Somebody has to, whether it's a bookkeeper, the treasurer, the president, somebody's got to review that bank statement. And I realize in bigger organizations you may have staff that does this. Make sure they do it. And also make sure that somebody's reviewing the bank statements that's not cutting the checks. Because one of the easiest ways to commit fraud is to have the same person doing both. I've actually had accounting firms sit in on this class, accounting firms that do fire department audits in other states, so that they can help understand where the actual thefts are occurring, so that in their auditing processes, they're able to now put these tools and techniques in to make sure that it reduces the risk. The next item, conduct background checks for personnel with any financial responsibility. Any financial responsibility. If you handle money, make sure that they have a background check conducted, and anybody that knowingly puts a person with a prior record for theft into the role of handling money, your insurance may be declined if you knowingly put a thief in charge of handling the money. So just understand, background checks become important, and they need to be done. In fact, they should be done on all leaders periodically, too, just to make sure you are who you say you are. There are a number of cases where if you're not doing periodic record checks, not just on financial-oriented staff, but on all staff. If you're not doing motor vehicle record checks, if you're not doing periodic other checks, whether it's the sexual predator checks or if you're dealing with children, or whether it's just a typical background check on a periodic basis, or even credit checks on those who are handling money. If you don't do those on a periodic basis, we're seeing that those types of people who are good people do something wrong outside the organization, and then they still retain their membership or their leadership positions, and that sometimes can create challenges because they come in and do something wrong within your organization. The next item, prohibit family members, if possible, or people with close family ties from simultaneously holding positions of financial authority. So, father-son, father-daughter, daughter, son, mother, brother, so on, they can create challenges. As I told the group yesterday, the best one I've heard was a fire department where they absconded with $60,000, the president and the chief and the treasurer, and the two went on a cruise without their spouses. So the chief, the male, and the treasurer, the female, stole the money, went on the cruise, left their spouses at home, and when they got back, they got caught. I'm doing more than one thing. Point number 9, obtain adequate insurance to cover your risks associated with all of this stuff. This means having adequate bonding on your people who handle money, fidelity coverage, and having crime coverage in case somebody steals stuff from the organization. And I just want to point out here, bonding is very, 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 very cheap, whether you buy it from VFIS or you buy it from somebody else. It's very, very cheap. And it can really protect you. And we have a fire department where the chief was asked, how much do you want? And he was responsible for buying insurance. He said, Chief, how much bond coverage do you want? He said, I want $25,000. He said, oh, $25,000. But Chief, you handle about $500,000 a year. About $250,000 of that is in your bank accounts at any one point in time. Don't you think you ought to raise that to at least $250,000? Chief says, no, I'm good at $25,000. Okay, what we typically do, what any good insurance agent would do, is they make sure that you recognize we've told you that we want you to spend, the amount of money, which Daryl would have been what we figured, $75 or something like that. Spend $75 to protect $250,000. Sound like a good deal to you? Okay. Well, he signed off and he said, I'm still not going to get that. The treasurer stole $250,000 and he only got $25,000. It's the moral of the story. So it happens, even to the best of them, because I've got a lot of respect for that chief. He made a decision. He goofed. Point number 10, audits. Do audits on all accounts regularly. You can do it by an internal audit committee. You can do it by external audit. You're probably going to have guidelines based upon the type of organization you are. You may have state requirements. You may have county requirements. You may have outside entity requirements. If you've got loans, somebody's probably going to require an audit of you. Just make sure you do the audit. Okay, back to the 10 ways to kill your fire department and how to prevent it. Point number 9, maintain the organization as your father or your grandfather's fire department. Now, these two scenes show fires that I attended as a young junior firefighter. And this is the way they fought fires back in the day. Okay? As you can see, the bunker gear used by this individual is the highest rated flame retardant product you can possibly have. Okay? I think it's called Skin 101. Okay? We over here, we're a little better, but as you can see here, we've got a few guys that have leather lungs, so they're not going to have to worry about contracting cancer over the next couple of decades, let alone falling through that roof. Operate like this, and bad stuff's going to happen. This is to say nothing about the way our fathers or our grandfathers fought fires or ran fire departments. They did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. But I can also tell you, having been a student of fire protection my entire life, that the way we were taught about fires back then and the way we are taught about how to protect buildings and people today are two totally different knowledge sets and two totally different skill sets. And if I think back, does fire still burn? Yeah, it still burns. Are there still some similarities in fire travel? Yes, there are. But are there new techniques that we have in place that manage the process? Yes. Are there new things that we have in place on the continuum of fire and fire growth that allow us to take and intervene more frequently and with different types of tools? The answer is yes. So we cannot operate like our fathers or our grandfathers did. Neither can we operate the management aspect like our fathers and grandfathers did. Because today, IRS regulations, OSHA regulations, NFPA regulations, you name the other organizations, there's only about 453 of them, they all have an impact on what we do. And if we don't comply as well as we can or seek to comply with what we can, what's going to happen sooner or later? Who's going to come knocking on your door because you did something wrong? Any lawyers in here? No? I already picked on you, so I'm not going to pick on you this time. This guy, he's looking at his phone. He's either looking to say, man, this guy's taking a long time to get through these 10 points, or he's got a fire call he's looking at, or he's calling his lawyer, one of the three. It is amazing today the litigious nature of what happens and what we get sued for. So in today's world, the paperwork requirements and the administrative requirements are totally different. Now, as Darrell said, I've been in this business a long time. Actually, this is year 46, okay? I started when I was 2. I first became fire chief in 1977, right? 1977, I spent 95% of my time going to fires or rescues or medical emergencies. As a fire chief today, you spend 95% of your time on stuff. And maybe you go to fires 2 or 3% of the time. And the other percent of the time, you're taking Pepto-Bismol. The job demands have changed. The expectations have changed. And the paperwork is enormous. 3 years ago, I spent 2 months just modifying the paperwork filing systems that we use for personnel. Why? Because I had a human resource administrator from a corporation come in and sit with me for a few hours and say, look, here's how I do this. How should I do it? And after she left, she said, look, she said, you're doing a great job, but you're not compliant. So what I had to do was take all of those files of individuals and restructure them. Why was I looking to do that? Well, we passed a cancer presumption law in Pennsylvania. And with the cancer presumption law in Pennsylvania, you now have to start documenting when people are exposed to various products of combustion. And as it turns out, the right way to do this is for every incident to make a file folder and put it in there for people. Well, that's an enormous task. So we had to look for something else. Well, then we found out we had to have separate medical files for everybody. You couldn't just have it as a segment of the personnel file. And then we found that over the years we had just been putting disciplinary actions in with the general personnel file. So we basically had to recreate our personnel files and integrate them in conjunction with what we do electronically. I was tired from doing that. And I got to go to no calls. I had no fun. It was all work. So maintain those organizations the way our fathers and grandfathers did, because in 1977, my paperwork for a member was a one-page application. It was in a file, and everybody's file or everybody's application was in the same file. So I could go to one file with the applications, and I'd pull them out. And if something needed to have its own file, it was in a general file that said everybody's other stuff. Well, we can't do that today. And number 10, don't leave your fire station unless there's a call. I love to go to closed up fire stations, knock on the door, and make somebody come out. And I do that. So someday if you hear this guy knocking on the door and you look outside and say, there's some jerk outside wants something, it's probably me. You know, and I'm going to come and say, hey, how you doing? I'm your insurance man. And I came here to check on you. And then I'll send them Daryl. I have gone to fire stations. In fact, I was at one fire station. This was a classic. It was not in South Carolina. But I was in this fire station, and I'm with the chief. And a guy comes in with his little kid. And he said, hey, I just moved here from New York. I would like to join your fire department. My son loves fire engines. You know, can he look around? And the chief looks at him and he says, I'm busy. You can go ahead and look around. Don't touch anything. And we are here on Wednesday nights, and you can come down any Wednesday night and you can talk to us. And I said, Chief, I can wait. I got a lot of stuff I can do here. You go talk to him, because you're going to lose a member if you don't go talk to this guy right now. And let the kid do something. You may not want him on a truck, but let him do something. Let him go look at pictures in the day room or something. But he basically sent that guy away. Said, I don't need any more members here. I got enough members. Bad. Bad, 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 bad. You never know what that talent level is when that guy comes in. So the guy did hang around for a little bit, and I excused myself, and I went over and I said, hey, you know, if I were you, I'd come back on Wednesday night. This is really a pretty cool fire department. You might enjoy yourself here. Do you have any experience? The guy said, oh yeah, I'm a 20-year firefighter from New York. I'm certified, I'm a rescue technician, I'm an EMT, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And this guy was just going to blow him off. So that's just one example, and that's just with people coming into the station. It's amazing how many people think that the public should come knocking on your door to help. You need to be out with the public, letting them know what you do, because when you need help, you're going to need the public's support to get what you need. We don't have time today for questions because I know you're all in a hurry to get home, but I really appreciate the opportunity to come down and talk to you yesterday with the financial session and today with this. I hope that this has been somewhat valuable to you and that you can take something home so that your organization stays strong. And next time I come down here to see you all, you can tell me something positive that happened. Thank you very much.
I'll talk loud. We appreciate you coming this week, and this weekend's been very productive. I think everybody's had a really good time, and we just want to say thank you on behalf of all the associations. And just want to do a little housekeeping business, and I'll turn it over to Will while we're doing a few things. First off, as a partner with us, the Academy has agreed to give credit for this program. So the ladies in the back and some of the folks in the back, John, Alan, y'all's table or something, if you can, help the ladies. We're going to pass out an Academy registration form. We were asking you to take a moment or two to fill that out for us, please, because you will receive a certificate from this program this weekend for your training files. So if you would, that's one of the housekeeping items. Everyone who registered with us and gave us an email address was 7 minutes ago, emailed a course evaluation online, electronic methods, try to speed things up today. We're asking you that it is very important for you to fill out those course evaluations for this weekend's program. Send that back to us. We need that feedback. We did use the comments from last year and in making this a better weekend. So we certainly appreciate you giving us that feedback. I think it's been a very positive weekend. We've had a lot of great fun, a heck of a lot of ideas. We've had the gambit of speakers and topics from A to Z that I think has probably challenged us, made us think, dusted off some cobwebs, and gave us some homework. And we look forward to doing this in the future and making this program better with your help. We do have some door prizes to give out that once we get these course registration completed, we're going to start our door prize, and Darrell is in charge of that. So Darrell, come on up. Darrell, and I think Alan Sims is going to help him too. So you all are doing the draw. Ashley and Patty and Tommy are handing out tickets, one per person, please. And then Darrell's going to be responsible as he grows up to be to be responsible for handing out the prizes.
Oh, okay, I know what to do.
A number of things that we've done this weekend would not have been possible except by our sponsors. We received a number of beneficiaries that have helped us with this program this weekend, and to them, some of the signage you've seen at some of our snack and break tables, a couple that have been mentioned from the mic. Just again, to those individuals, I would like to say thank you for all that they did for us, and we'll recognize a few of those as we give out some of these door prizes.
We'll just do that. Just to say a little, as Joe mentioned, this weekend doesn't happen without the sponsorship. So definitely a thank you to the sponsorship, and really want to thank the instructors. Friday night, yesterday, and today, we had some really great programs, and you got an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different things. But what I really want to do, as your president and part of the executive committee, is thank you all for being here. I know it's a holiday weekend. Your kids are home. My kid was home Friday, off tomorrow, 4-day weekend. Great opportunity for you all to travel or whatever you want to do, and you all decided to show up here to make the fire service better. So I think you deserve to give yourself a round of applause for being here. Improving the fire service is what this weekend's all about. Thank you for being here. As well as thanking y'all, to thank everybody who was maybe at the station, couldn't get away, maybe was in San Diego or somewhere else and tuned in to watch some of our programs online. When you get back, if you want to share this with your people, have them go to our YouTube channel. All this will be available probably Tuesday. Is that right, Jeff? Tuesday? Tuesday sounds good to you? Jason usually makes that call on when things are available, but probably Tuesday everything will be online. And you can share this with your fire department back home. If you have a Wednesday night meeting or something like that and you want to use different segments of this for your training, I think that'd be a great idea. So does everybody have tickets, Ash?